And welcome to our guest. I am really honored to be in conversation with you today. We've worked together for, I can't remember, more than 10 years maybe?
Yeah.
And listening to Morel's extraordinary work. So today's program will begin with the two of us in conversation with one another. We are going to open the floor for Q&A. And just to put the exhibition into context, I'm going to read an excerpt from my curatorial statement, and then we're going to dive into a deeper conversation and allow Morel to interpret the work from his personal lens, one who I consider an eco-activist, lending his voice to the concerns of the Black and Brown community in Little Haiti and other disenfranchised communities across this country and the world. In Haitian American artist Morel Doucet's first solo exhibition at Galerie Myrtis, Water Grieves and the Six Shades of Death, the multidisciplinary artist investigates critical issues of environmental racism and displacement of Black and Brown people from their homes, particularly those living in Miami's Little Haiti neighborhood. Doucet deploys ceramics, colorful silhouettes of Little Haiti residents, indigenous birds, impressions of native flora and fauna, and decorative ironwork salvaged from demolished dwellings to explore the impact of climate change and developers on this marginalized community. In incorporating ceramics, Doucet brings attention to the fragility and vulnerability of the natural world. The colorful silhouettes of Little Haiti residents serves as a powerful representation of the human dimension and the impact of environmental injustices on real lives. The presence of indigenous birds and impressions of native flora and fauna reflects the interconnectedness between humans and the natural environment, underscoring the symbolic relationship that is disrupted by the forces of climate change and development. Salvaged decorative ironworks acts as poignant symbols representing the dilemma and displacement of marginalized communities in the face of rapid development and gentrification. By incorporating these salvaged materials, Doucet draws attention to the destruction of physical spaces and cultural landscapes and landmarks, highlighting the need to protect and preserve the unique heritage and identity of communities under threat. Welcome, Morel.
So before we begin, I just want to say gratitude to everyone in the room. Thank you so much for stepping out of the home and coming out tonight. It means the world to me. And especially as I look around, it's not Black and Brown people. And so the work that I've been making has been a labor of love, and it's our story that is happening across America, across the globe, and the fact that you're in this room. I hope what you experienced tonight, you can take it on and pass the message to move forward.
Thank you. And I also want to recognize Morel's mother who is here. I tried to get her to come up front, but she said she wanted to sit over there. So may we ask you to stand, please, so we can acknowledge you. I thank her for gifting us with this genius child of hers. So, and it's brilliant, creative. So let's begin. We're going to begin with your origin story and explore your life in Haiti.
Absolutely. So I'm Haitian American, Haitian born. My mother and my father, they received political asylum in the early 90s. So I left Haiti when I was very young, at age 3. And so when you're a child of an immigrant, you're experiencing a life-changing event as moving from your native country, and you're trying to assimilate into a culture that is very foreign to you. Is what I experienced growing up. So growing up in South Florida in the 90s, it was never popular to be Haitian. And so I hid a lot of that identity very well, where I would assimilate, try to blend as Black. And really, it wasn't until my time in college where I realized that if I did not tell my own stories, then somebody would do it for me. And so it became really important for me to tell my story and why my story was important. This is the town where I come from, called Pilat, and it's a very mountainous town. At the intersection of the town are three major rivers, and it's surrounded by these beautiful mountains. My mom is an educator when she was back in Haiti, so she would track 2-3 miles to work to teach in the mountains in different towns. So this kind of picture brings me back to that experience a little bit. And this is a video that kind of gives you a little bit of the landscape of Haiti. So in the exhibition, I'm using a lot of reference to the natural world. And so I grew up on a farm back in Haiti with my grandfather. And so I've always been surrounded by nature. I had chickens, goats, cows on a farm. And so this video kind of gives you the understanding of the natural landscapes of what Haiti it is actually. So the video kind of gives an overview of the landscape. So for those that are not familiar with Haitian history, Haiti is the first Black republic in the Western Hemisphere. We, unfortunately, as a result of us gaining our independence, we were subjected to a embargo by the U.S. and we were forced to pay back the French for our freedom. So over the course of 400 years, the entire infrastructure of the country has been decimated in trying to pay back the French government in exchange for our freedom. If you take that money, it would equate to about $32.3 billion today. So if you can imagine what Haiti looked like if that money was given back to Haiti as a nation, and how it would further redevelop the country to what it could possibly be. So as a result today, a lot of the impact have been an accumulation of many, many years. And so I kind of want to talk a little bit about this work in the exhibition. It is actually the largest piece in the exhibition, and the title is called Secret That the Wind Carries Away. When I'm walking through these neighborhoods that are experiencing gentrification, over the course of the last 5 years, I would go from one neighborhood that would be the house where the grandmother would live on, where she would sit on the porch in the morning, watch the kids go to school in the morning, and then to watch this home over the course of 5 years completely get demolished, where it becomes completely just a vacant lot. And so Secret That the Wind Carries Away is an allegory to understanding the essence of what happens in Black and brown spaces. In Little Haiti, there's chickens, there's dogs that roam the street. And with development, when people come in, they're harassing residents because they don't have a permit to have a chicken. So can you imagine you come into a neighborhood, it's already an established culture there. And then you, as a new person, you're trying to enforce rules that was never established in that neighborhood. So this is a little bit insight into this practical work. But then thinking about Afrofuturism, what does it look like to take up space? What does Black joy look like? So in this body of work here, I'm thinking about Blackness in relationship to space, thinking about land, and how we occupy these different times.
So I wanted to ask you to unpack for us the title, because it serves as a metaphor and an allegory as it relates to how you personally feel about what's happening in the local community.
So the title of the exhibition is called Water Grieves in a Six Street Path. It's from one of my poems. It's that I wrote a while back, and I started to just unpack this poem of what it meant to me. So when you think about water, water has existed since the formation of the universe. It's been here from the very beginning. So water as an agency, as a body, has been the forewitness of all these changes that happen in our lifetime. So when we think about like water, so I see it as this gatekeeper, as a book of records that is mourning this continual destruction of our environment. So right now, scientists say that we're undergoing the next stage of extinction, and we as humans will be the contributing factor to this cycle.
Yes, so true. So we're going to examine that cycle further as we go through the work.
So this is one that played before thing. So this is another video that gives you a quick breakdown of what climate gentrification is and what does it mean, and how this impacted South Florida.
The clear water and white sands of Miami have long been a draw for those who can afford a lifestyle on the beach. But there's a threat rolling in.
Flooding has become a rising issue.
Water was also up to car doors along Northeast 17th Street.
Parked cars seen stuck in several inches of water.
In Miami Beach, they're trying everything to outmaneuver the surging water, even raising the roads.
In this neighborhood where you see the chairs and tables and planters down the steps is actually the original height of the street.
The risk of flooding in Miami's waterfront neighborhoods is pushing people towards higher ground, driving up rents in low-income communities further inland, in a phenomenon known as climate gentrification. Zalala Medefris advocates for Miamians who are being priced out of their homes.
So now with sea level rise threatening the coastal areas, the richer, wider neighborhoods, those inland neighborhoods that are on higher elevation are being seen as more valuable, and people are getting essentially pushed out due to new development there.
So on that final line, so this is a area review of my neighborhood that I grew up in called TIT, which translates to Little Haiti. A few developers have moved into neighborhoods, and they've purchased multiple homes, and then they demolished them. So within Little Haiti, there's over 30-something vacant lots that are just sitting in these neighborhoods. And so in the exhibition, the figurative work that you notice in the silhouettes are done using the ecology from these spaces. So I go into these empty lots, because sometimes they're overgrown, and I gather the plants to recreate these portraitures of the residents that you notice on the wall. So it's kind of so this kind of like looking at the site, I'm mourning what experience and the energy that used to be on the site, and what is becoming of it.
So we talked earlier about this situation, and you made a statement about the landscape of memory, and I thought that was a really profound statement. I wonder if you could expand upon that a little bit more.
So for me, when I think about, like, in a similar fashion to water, the plants, for example, like this lot over here, the home is gone, but the trees are still there. And so when I think of plants, and nature, they're also these bookkeepers. They hold memory, they hold energy, and it's been here since the formation of the earth. The roots are grounded into the earth. And so there's this exchange that happened between the owner that used to live on this land and then the plants that surround them. And so when the developer comes in and they demolish the home, the people is gone, but then whatever stays behind is the bookkeeper, is the memory of the experience. So this is an article that came out back in 2015. So right now in South Florida, the residents of Key West are the first victims of climate gentrification. They were impacted by the last major hurricane, and so their homes is completely, they can't live in it anymore. And they've been forced to sell their homes back to the federal government. And so people think climate change is this abstract concept, but here is an example where it's concrete, where there's victims and impact of this.
And do you see this also happening in the areas that correlation?
Absolutely. So the residents are being forced out. So either through price increase and rent, or a developer comes in, they offer you $800,000. Seems like a lot of money to you, but then once they get the land, they're going to easily make $20 million off that land once they sell it to you. So this is another neighborhood in Overtown. So Overtown is it used to be the black mecca for music in South Florida. So in the early 1900s, black music artists were allowed to perform on the beach, but they cannot stay in the hotels. So they were forced to go back to Overtown, is what they were staying. So if you look at the picture, there's this interesting juxtaposition between Overtown Miami and downtown Miami, which is overlooking it. And so in a similar way, where up north where it's happening, and the downtown area is also happening as well. To Little Haiti, the reason why these developers are coming into the neighborhood is because the land sits on a higher elevation compared to other parts of the city. So right now, if you Google your phone, like South Florida, Miami, is Miami Beach that comes up on the phone. So that's where all the tourists comes in. That's the image of what Miami is. But if you look into 5, 10, 15 years into the future, Miami Beach is going to be on the water. So the new beachfront will be Little Haiti. And so the developers know this. And so they've been gearing up very slowly in body of how to prepare for the encroaching seawater rise and how they can benefit and stage themselves to be part of that change.
So the fact that the beachfront is eroding,
Yes.
the water sea levels are rising, that is why the developers are moving further inland.
Yes.
That landmass has been inhabited by Black and brown communities who cannot afford those beachfront properties.
The Black and brown communities were forced to live in these areas because that was the least desirable part of town. So they're just like, we'll set you there. Like you can work on the beach, but you can't stay on the beach. You could work, at sundown, you have to go back. That's how the Black residents were treated for over 50 years. So we're semi-part of the economy, but at a limited level of how to be there. So this kind of gives you a better understanding of the beach right now. So this is a picture of Miami Beach, and as you notice, it's heavily concentrated in terms of buildings, skyrise, hotel. So here, we're looking at easily over $20 billion of revenue that comes in through the city. So all of this is all going to be gone in the next, who knows, like really, really fast. And so all of this is no longer the destination where you want to be. So if you have money, now you're looking to buy a piece of land further inland because you're guaranteed to be there longer versus buying a property on the beach. So this is one of our developers in the city. He's part of a conglomerate called Global Dragon. There's like 20 of them that organize together, and he's proud of himself because after using money, lobbying, and a lot of shady business practices, he was able to pass a monstrosity project that's coming to the neighborhood of Little Haiti. So things like, like the small mom and pop shops that used to be around the city are all going to be eliminated for this project. Next slide. So this is what Little Haiti is going to become in the next 10 years. It's a mega project that is estimated to cost easily like $2 billion of development. And the final project was passed at 3 o'clock in the morning by the board and the commissioners, and they essentially kicked out all the activists. None of the residents was there at the meeting, so under the cover of darkness, they passed something that's going to completely alter the course of life for residents. My mom has a condo in this neighborhood, and so we don't know how we're going to be impacted by this project. So in terms, I don't know if property tax is going to go up, what is rent going to look like for other people there that don't have homes. But in Miami, as a city, it's a pay to play. So if you have money, you're able to have agency and power to do things that you want to happen.
So let me ask you a question. How do you see your art playing a role in raising awareness and promoting dialogue about the critical crisis of environmental racism in this space?
So when I'm in spaces, oftentimes the space never looks like this. The spaces are heavily white dominated and Hispanic. And so when I'm in these spaces, I'm able to be an advocate for those that are voiceless or don't have the agency to be in these rooms. And when it comes to Black and brown people, it's not that they don't care. Oftentimes, if you're an immigrant, you're trying to survive. You're trying to put food on the table. You're trying to make sure that your kid gets from A to B. And so the same luxury that white and Hispanic people have, being Black or an immigrant, you don't have that same luxury. And so when I go into these spaces, I'm there to take up space, but then also act as a voice, as a beacon for people that are no longer able to be in these spaces.
So let's look more closely at your, well, let's talk about this because I love this piece of
Yeah. And so, like the residents, we are fighting back. The project, there's still little kinks for Magic City that still needs to be done. And so right now, the developer, we've proposed different ideas like, okay, if you're gonna build this mega project in the neighborhood, how about offer affordable housing? The rich people don't wanna live with the poor people. So they go, no, we don't like that. How about this? We'll take money, it will make a community fund with it, and you guys can decide how to best use the money. But who's gonna manage that money? Who's gonna be in charge of it? How are they gonna delegate the money? None of that has been proposed by these developers. So they're trying to find a way to come in, do what they want to do, but not really serve or invest into the community that they're coming to take over. And so it's a long uphill battle. It's not done, even though they've won the site project. There's a lot of nuances that still needs to happen. And so as residents, for those that are vocal, we're still finding ways to push back.
So what I appreciate about this photograph and this collage imagery is, in looking at it, I was reminded that the first rebellion against slavery was launched by Haitians. And so what it said to me is that you're not being complacent and passive, that the community is fighting for their place. And so I just found some level of comfort in knowing that they are doing this, the community is protesting and active and making their voices heard.
Absolutely. So the name Little Haiti is officially a designated area on the map. For a very long time, it was a word of mouth. It was never officially on the map of South Florida. So by us having our name officially on the map, it solidified Haitian contribution to South Florida, into the music, culture, and just the heritage and the preservation of that. Prior to it being called Little Haiti, the historical name was Lemon City. So the developer was fighting to name it the historical site, but why would you name something that the neighborhood does not look like anymore? All the lemon trees that were in Lemon City have been cut down. So why would you call it something that no longer even match the identity of that neighborhood? So the developers lost the fight. So now Little Haiti is here to stay.
I think that was probably an effort on their part to erase the
Yes.
history of Haitian. So let's look at the work. Let's start by having you discuss Liberty Blue, Bigman's house.
So Liberty Blue pays homage to a lady on the block called Big Mama. Everybody just called her that. She passed away in 2015. Actually, she passed away in 2015, and her sister died during the pandemic. And so this piece kind of pays homage to her. Her home has been demolished, and it's only just the site that is left of what she used to be for the and so she was that grandmother figure in the neighborhood that, you know, she was watching you go to school. Like if you were in the street, like why aren't you in class? Like what are you doing in the street? And so this work is from the exterior of one of the windows that I'm using as part of the exhibition to pay homage to her memory. So if you notice, like the next piece over here is really, really shiny. And so I'm thinking about ideas of magical realism in a sense where when you walk into this field, even though it's empty, it's vacant, there's still this energy that you can't really describe there. So even though the home is gone, you experience something and you know something was here. Kind of like, and if you go to like a site that the dead is there, sometimes you just feel it in your bone and skin. And so when I'm in these lands and these sites, I feel that. And so works like this, I'm trying to exude that sense of energy that I'm experiencing. And then throughout the exhibition, there's a lot of this ironwork that are stationed throughout the entire show. So with the metalwork, I'm paying homage to Haitian metalworkers that passed away in the 2010 earthquake back in Haiti. And so some of these techniques of welding and the motifs of the fencing come directly from these metalworkers in the exhibition. And so it's a little bit of mixing the past and to give them this contemporary feel and how I'm playing with the forms.
So can you, I see this effort that salvaging and repurposing the ironwork as part of your role in preserving cultural heritage and protection of local communities and the rapid development and gentrification that you're depicting in your work. So here you're paying homage to the tradition of the Haitian ironworkers. Had we not, I did not know that tradition existed.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know about the tradition of enslaved Africans doing ironwork. In particular, it was brought to my attention in like Washington, D.C. There are many items where, and I don't know if the people who live there even know who created the ironwork. So I want to not have to really dwell on that too much, but I really want to drive the point home about, well, basically your process and everything being intentional and very layered in story and memory and preservation.
Yeah. So the work in the exhibition were done in multi-parts. So you have the going to the field, gathering the plants to create these different portraits. And then in the same process, I'm looking for sites or I'm talking to the construction worker. Hey, I know this home is coming down. Like, do you want the fence? Oh, you don't want it, right? Cool. Can I pick up the fence? You know. So it's this exchange that's happening in the neighborhood. So I'm there again. Like I'm documenting that there's a conversation that happens with people that are part of the process. And then the metal work, I bring it back to the studio. Where at my studio is we have the entire metal shop. So I'm able to take the metal work, break it down, deconstruct it, weld it back together, and make it into a form or something that fits with the concept of it. And so, kind of similar in a sense, as well as these metal fencing now are being replaced with hurricane impact windows. So these used to be the old levels in this home, and now with the zoning code, things like that, a lot of these homes are losing that as well.
So, and thank you for sharing that and expanding on it so the viewers understand that it's not just a decorative element.
Yeah.
That there is, tradition that you are preserving.
Yes.
And something that important communities
And then we could kind of, I don't know if you have any questions in between. And so another facet of the exhibition is the porcelain ceramic work. And for me, it's always important to incorporate clay into whatever I'm doing, because at the core of our human understanding is ceramic. Ceramic is the only medium that transcends time, place, and economics. a archaeologist is able to go into a site, we can dig it up, and we can learn about the dietary of that culture. We can learn about the medicine that they took. We can learn about the language based on the design or the words that are left behind on that pot. And so I believe without ceramic, a large majority of African history would be missing. And so by using ceramic in the exhibition, it is a point of the beginning. And then it kind of translates and expands into these other kinds of media. And then with porcelain ceramics, all the work in the show is made out of porcelain ceramic. Porcelain holds a really unique place in the sense where there was a point in history where porcelain had the same monetary value as gold. And so if you went to someone's home, one way they would kind of flex or show they were sophisticated if they would have a piece of porcelain somewhere in the mantle or on the fireplace or at the entry of the home. And so porcelain is a way to bring elevation, to show that the work is sophisticated as well. And then, the work is really labor intensive. So I said, one, I've seen that the work is labor intensive, but it's important because it holds a place in our history. And then you'll notice that in some of the figurative busts, there's carvings that are on facial. So the carving comes directly from the Ifa of Nigeria. So if you guys are familiar with the bronze work, so I'm making a reference to that aspect of history
And also, I'd like you to acknowledge the jewelry maker and why you chose to incorporate her piece.
Yeah. So the jewelry maker is a designer based in New York. She's a jewelry designer based in New York. She just had a major line with Macy's, and she's a Black jewelry. Her work has been worn by Janelle Monáe, Tracy Ellis, all these. Yeah. And so I reached out to her a couple years ago because I wanted to work with other Black artists. And so I remember she was super busy, and she just I have a line that's coming out with Macy's. The link is gonna launch at this date at this time. And so I literally watched the link, and the minute it launched, I was able to get a bulk of work from her, and we just stayed in contact. And so I used a little bit. So a lot of the jewelry work is made directly from her, and the jewelry work it further enhances the work and what I'm trying to talk about. So, for example, this piece here, Black Maiden on the pulse of Morning Cageburg, there's a lot of birds on her, so it alludes to the idea of migration, how Black and brown people are migrating during this place and having to move from one area to a different area as well. And then we got two of the blue heads in the exhibition. Blue is another important element in the exhibition for me, where if you think about the slaves from South Carolina, blue is this color of spiritual transformation. It also is a color of, it's like a veil that protects you from bad spirits, from bad energy. And so by having them placed in the exhibition, it's kind of this beacon of positivity, of keeping away bad energy away out of the exhibition. And so they're taking up space in the exhibition. And if you notice, they're wearing jewelry. One of them says gentrification on one, and the other says climate change on the other one. So so they're silent, but then the jewelry speaks volume of what the only need to actually talk.
There's also the connection, at least for me, in terms of blue, it's indigo. And we have vacation to spend a lot of time in the chair out in the desert with the forests and of course I think Grieves. And so the indigo cloth we feel holds healing qualities and they will that hold themselves in beings, right? As a universe. So I wonder if that is part of the influence for me as well.
And then the largest installation in the show is God Told Me Stars to Be audible through the window sills. And this is another kind of allegory. We're talking about the dreams of the residents of this neighborhood. Because again, when you live in these cities, when you're an immigrant, you don't leave your country because you just leave out of nowhere. You leave for better opportunities. You leave because you want something better. And so the entire conglomerate essentially is 2 years of me talking to people. And so for me, it was important to show this timeline. And so this grouping is a timeline of the last 2 years of me talking to people and thinking about, talking to them about their dreams, their hopes, and what they would like for themselves as this change is happening.
And the silhouettes those are actually
Yes.
the residents.
Yes.
And then the indigenous birds, some of which are on the metalwork, and then the floral and fauna is also part of that community.
Yes.
So these are just detailed shots.
Yeah.
Is there any symbolic meaning for the bells?
Bells, just the noise or yeah. And then this is another word back there. So within the context of the exhibition, I also was thinking about the act, like rest as an act of protest. And so this piece here is 3 black boy rests from the ethos of fallen dreams. Was in that cycle of meditation. I'm thinking about how these residents are working so hard and they're worried about affordable housing. They're worried about if they can have enough food for next month. So rest as something that is sacred, but they not necessarily experience because there's so many contributing factors that's in the mind that they're unable to experience something simple like this. And so this practical work exhibition is just a moment where you can kind of pause, meditate, and think about the rest that we do, but some people don't have the luxury of really experiencing and enjoying that.
This piece, for me, it has profound meaning in that your interpretation of rest is as a form of protest. Because we need to heal, we need to rest and rejuvenate. But when someone, as you said, is concerned with just keeping a roof over their head and having to work 2 and 3 jobs in order to afford to do that, rest is not leisure, it is value. It sustains our nourishment, a way in which we sustain our lives.
And then I just for these work over here, if you notice, the entire show is really, really super colorful. So it pays homage again going back to Haiti with the homes, the metal workers. I wanted the show, even though the subject matter is very somber, I wanted the show to be colorful and vibrant because these neighborhoods are places of life, of joy, of happiness, and so I wanted to include them in the slide. Even like the beaded curtains this one over here, like showing like these are from homes, from spaces that people cared about, prayed about, graduation happens in these spaces. And so this is why the show is super, super vibrant.
So, question, do you believe that art has the power to drive collective action and contribute to a more just and sustainable future?
Absolutely. So I'm a firm believer that the work that is being done today will be documenting Miami. So Miami in 30 years from today is going to be completely different. And so when I'm no longer here, the work will serve as, it could be a blip on the timeline. There used to be joy in these spaces. These were the happenings, and this is how it was celebrated and documented.
Well, I have a lot of other questions, but I thought at this point I'd open the floor and see if anyone in our audience would like to ask questions. And Alex will circulate the mic. So, Just raise your hand if you have any questions.
I'm absolutely in love. I was wondering about like your experience and your emotions, like throughout your process, like when you first came up with the idea, in the middle of making it, and then when it was finished, if you don't mind sharing.
It goes in different ranges, you know. There's moment where, you know, I'm in the neighborhood and there's the Dominican music playing, you know, there's some culture and this some kind of block party, and I'm just having fun. And so for in that few moments, it brings you back. Well, this is Miami. What are you thinking about? And then you know you go back 2 years later. You're like, what happened to Pablo? Oh, you know the developer came and they brought them home, and so Pablo is gone, and now this empty lot. You know, and so it makes me not take things for granted. And so like literally within the blink of an eye, seeing how within literally 2 years, this entire legacy is gone. It's been uprooted or erased completely. And so I'm thankful for the interactions that I have and I experience. And so I no longer take it for granted because I'm realizing that, oh, it feels the genuine experience is not gonna be everlasting. This might be temporarily, but let's just enjoy it for this time. Please.
I think we have another question.
Thank you so much for your interpretation of the art. I've been in things like this before, and when the artist finished, I didn't know any more about what he did than when he began.
Yeah.
You really provided an insightful interpretation. I see the art and the message itself. The art is beautiful. Your message is wonderful. But my question is this. I feel like, and I'll just be honest with you, developers are going to get that link. They're going to get it. Now the question then, should the message be less place focused and more focused on art, culture, and spirit, and then these developers wanted to create a someplace else where you have an opportunity to improve the living standards for everybody in the community and not focus too much on where little Haiti is right now?
This is a question that comes up in town hall meetings all the time. And the thing is, you know, for you to uproot yourself and move to another neighborhood, you gotta have the equity in order to start over. And so with Miami, the way things are laid out, there's not a lot of space available.
Right.
You know, so there's another video where the residents are being told, oh, let's move down south. Down south is a terrible move because it's a lower it's a lower elevation, and it's where Hurricane Andrew hit back in the 1990s. And so you're literally moving from a place of safety at higher elevation to go to a lower elevation because somebody gives you money. So it sounds like a very simple thing the way you're phrasing it, but it's not hard. The developers, they do not care. The developer, they're there to make money, and the way things are going in the town hall meetings, the rich does not want to live with the poor. They do not want mixed development housing. It's a pay to play. If you have money, then we're gonna build you something. If you're gonna live with a porch in the living room, we're gonna build you something to accommodate what you want. So the developer is gonna make your dreams come true if you have the equity and the capital to you can be there. If you're like a regular person that don't have the equity, then you're gonna have to force leave. And so that's how it's black and white. The developer's like, if you have money, then you're probably gonna be here. If you don't have money, then more you're gonna be gone. Yeah.
So then I asked a question earlier today about the percentage of the population in Haiti that owns their property.
It's a very small percentage.
Most of them are renters.
Yeah.
Yes.
So even if they wanted to stay, they don't own it. So how can you stay if you don't own something? So, within the last within the pandemic, the typical like 2-bedroom apartment before pandemic was renting for like $1,200. They're not renting at $2,500 in the same exact neighborhood.
That's precisely.
Oh, yeah. They know how to get you out. Well, I said to one person, recently, urban renewal is replacing the people. I'm not coming in to make it better for you. I'm going to
Replace it.
Question.
Hello, thank you for your very lovely discussion today. I really appreciate it. And like one sort of theme that seems to be popping up from like what you were talking about is this like question of memory, right? And I was wondering if, in what way do you consider yourself like a historian or maybe an archivist of like Little Haiti? The way that you like go into these neighborhoods and preserve like the metalworking. And I'm also thinking about that like in terms of like, forget my pronunciation, trio, like the Haitian historian, right? And this question of like the archives and science, but in a certain way, like you're fighting against that.
So as an artist, the work that I make, I know that these works will be works that will go down in the history books. The work as a viewer, you have I call everything that I make are double-edged swords. It gives you the agency to appreciate it for the beauty of it, but then there's always the underlying message. There's always a deeper beyond the superficial beauty or aesthetic of the work. So when I make the work, I don't make it for myself. I make it for those that don't have the voice. In a way, I guess you can say like I would embrace being called a historian, because it's true. Like the word comes from history, from place, from a memory, and it's documented that. But at the same time, I don't want to force it on you. I like to give you the option, the agency to you decide as a viewer how you want to engage with the work.
Any other questions? I'll ask this one. What message or conversation do you hope to initiate through your exhibition regarding environmental justice and social inequality?
So I guess the ultimate message would be because when it comes to gentrification, it's not happening just in South Florida. It's happening in the entire world. So for me, there's some people in the population that thinks ideas of seawater rise, climate change is this fictional thing that's happening. I hope through this exhibition that you see this is real. It's not a made up thing. It's not a political issue. Like this is the residents. They're experiencing this right now as we're speaking. I hope if you're not familiar with the term climate gentrification, that this exhibition teaches you what it is and how it's impacting people that look like us. And so when you leave here today, you can look around Baltimore and Philly and parts of New York, parts of Harlem, and you can see how gentrification, whether climate or not, is impacting these other parts across the country.
Thank you, Morel. This is a profound exhibition. The works are compelling. And thank you for lending your voice to the concerns of your community and beyond.